Hello everyone. So my name is Swami. So I'm working as solutions architect at Akamai Technologies. Mainly I work in the web performance and media streaming side of the house. So Akamai has different products in different verticals like web performance and media streaming and security as well. So today I mainly focus on. I'm here to talk about mainly uh, the web performance side of it because mostly we will be using Catchpoint to measure the performance, right? So the agenda for today's the session probably is like what are some of the challenges in the online business, like whenever our customers reach out to us, like what are some of the issues they mentioned. For example, their pages are taking too longer, that they're seeing their users are bouncing off from their websites, right? So what are some of the challenges they face, or what are some of the issues our customers come up with also, right? When they come up with a few of the issues, how can Akamai help them? Like, what are some of the products we have, and how can we assist them, right? So, and then why monitoring is important. So when we say why monitoring is important for us, so whenever we say, hey, we are doing this, so we can improve the page load times, so we can improve your SEO rankings. So at the end of the day, we need to prove that we have done this, right? So that's why monitoring is important for us. We need to use some tools to show them, right? So that's where Catchpoint fits in for us. Also, whenever customer reaches out to us saying, hey, we have some performance issues from these regions, so we need to troubleshoot those, right? So that's when even then we can use Catchpoint, right? So also I'll also talk about one of the use cases, how we use Catchpoint to troubleshoot some of the performance issues, right? Okay, so mostly we all heard mostly the networking part of it, right? So like how the networking, how things work, no deployment, everything till now. So mostly whenever our customers reaches out to us, it's mostly in perspective of users. So whenever we talk about online business, it's the users, right? So uh, it's the user experience which matters to most of the online businesses. So we would want to give, or our customers want to give their users with a better or excellent user experience, whether we talk about page loads or even the streaming rights. So whenever they're watching some videos on our website, so there shouldn't be any buffering, right? So that's what users expect. So or when they when they access websites, they don't want pages to be taking too longer, right? So they want a very good experience, or else what they can do is they can just bounce up our from website. So our customers primarily want to improve that. If there are any issues, they want to improve that and give a very good user experience so that users stay, and that's what drives them to conversions or revenue and subscriptions, right? So that's what is the business goal at the end of the day. So as I mentioned, so if you are not doing that, if you are not providing a very good user experience, they just get frustrated. Hey, what's this? This is taking too longer. I'll just go. For example, if you consider I want to buy a product, so then I'll search, and if one of the websites is taking too longer, I'll just abandon that, and I probably go to a next website where the same product is being sold, right? So uh, the customers or customers want are over, right? So for example, if you take e-commerce website, so they want to be very careful with their page load times, and they want to optimize their websites and reduce latency as much as possible. So I think we know, like whenever we talk about latencies, there are so many factors which can add up to the latency. For example, networking complexities itself. So our internet, it's a complex thing, right? Again, so the underlying protocols itself. So our protocols itself has some disadvantages, right? So also like growing users. So we want to be at par even when there are like peak number of requests, and we are seeing like lots of devices, browsers, and applications. Also, our customers are using a very good architect. I mean, they're using different architectures, that they're shifting to different architectures by day, right? So whenever we talk about this latency and performance, right? So CDNs, so Akamai CDN or any CDN for that matter, will play a very important role in that, like to improve the page load times, or to reduce the latency, or to take the that hit whenever there is a peak number of requests, probably during a sale, right? So there should be a way where, I mean, CDNs can take withstand that total the peak number of requests, right? So if you talk about Akamai, yes, it's well known for its a robust capacity and the network. So we have around 350 plus thousand servers across the world, and most like 90% of the times we just stay one hop away from the end users, right? And to do this job, I mean, to reduce the latency and provide very good user experience, to improve the page load times, so we are known for like we are best in the job. And also, as I mentioned, we have our network is wide, and we can also withstand any number of peak requests at any time. uh, yeah, and also, as you can see on the screen, these are some of the optimizations that our performance products can do. For example, basic caching. That's a basic, like every CDN can do that. Apart from that, like at the edge itself, we provide security against DDoS attacks, application layer attacks, and even protect from the bots as well. So, as I mentioned, I'm not going to talk about security, but yeah, if we talk about the performance, web performance, so caching and intelligent routing as well. As we know, our network can be congested at any point of time. So we also have some routing techniques where we can use alternate routes within Akamai to go to the customer origin servers or application servers to fetch and serve the response to the end users. Apart from that, like we can compress text files, images, and videos as well, to reduce the byte size, so that the whatever the content, for example, image, videos, can be delivered faster to the end user browsers, right? And also other optimization techniques like UI optimization. So UI optimization. So other name, I would say adaptive acceleration, which includes features like server push, HTTP to server push, and then we have automatic font preload, automatic third-party domains pre-connect, right? So all these optimizations to just to make sure we are improving the performance. These optimizations are not only limited to websites but also APIs, right? So we can also, since APIs are resource consuming, so we have deployed a different set of servers to handle that load as well, right? So we also have products for live streaming, for media VOD streaming as well, and again for security as well. Yeah. So if we talk about security, right? So sorry, if we talk about the web performance, so mostly like in the while Tony was talking about, so we saw different metrics. So previously, like if you go back 2 3 years, probably 5 years ago, it was mainly time to first byte or page load times. But recently, since Google has released these Google Core Web Vitals, which are largest contentful paint, cumulative layout shift, first input delay. So even these matters for a very good SEO, right? So even these should be in within the threshold for to get SEO ranking, right? So for example, we should not only measure the page load times. So sometimes what happens is, let's say I'm browsing a page may look ready, but there is a login page, and I try to enter my username and password, but it's not working because it's looking as it is ready, but it's not clickable. It's not taking any of the input. So now I may get frustrated and just click on this, like that might lead to rage clicking, right? So even the perceived performance metrics, for example, time to interactive, even those matters. So as the networking, as the world evolves, even these, like the metrics, everything is evolving. Like we every day we are seeing new metrics that makes more sense. For example, since Google introduced Core Web Vitals, so those are some of the things. For example, largest contentful paint. So that's one of the important metric we should be looking at, and we need to improve these metrics for to get good SEO rankings for our websites, right? Okay, so if we fit in Akamai, like how can Akamai help improve different metrics, right? So as I was talking about different features we have in the previous slides, so those are some of the features we have fit in here, like feature to a metric, I would say, feature to metric mapping here. For example, to get largest contentful paint. If I talk about largest contentful paint, so if you open a website, there could be a banner image, right? So that banner image could be a largest object in that page. So if we load that, so our LCP would be good. So caching that specific image at the edge of on the edge server, on the Akamai edge, and as I mentioned, we are closer to the users. 90% of the times we are just one hop away from the end user. So if we cache that image and serve it to the end user, and that LCP would be improved, right? So likewise, there are some other features, like for example, server push, script management, dynamic acceleration, and I mean, I'm not going to read all of them. As I mentioned again, for image, if we take image for instance, so we have image compression techniques, Akamai Image Manager, so it can basically look at the what browser is requesting, and for example, if the request is coming from Chrome, so WebP is the format, then it just converts that let's say JPEG image or PNG image into WebP and just sends it, right? So these are some of the optimizations we can do as part of the web performance products. Okay, so why is this important? Why should we, why are we using Catchpoint? How Catchpoint helps us? So okay, so I just spoke about so many features. Okay, we do this, we do that. So we tell all this to customer, and at the end of the day, if there is no performance, no use, right? So that's what they even tell us. Okay, how can you prove that? How can you tell us that you have improved the performance after we have onboarded our website onto Akamai, right? So that's when we use Catchpoint. So there are some use cases where we use Catchpoint for performance benchmarking, right? So before we onboard a customer's website onto Akamai, what was the performance like? What was the LCP? What was the page load time? What were some other metrics? So then after onboarding them onto Akamai, what is it like? So how much of percentage as Akamai improved, right? So to do this, we use Catchpoint. And one thing I want to mention is like we never ran out of options when we want to use Catchpoint. Like customers come from different regions, and they give us different locations. Hey, we have user base here. For example, Africa, we have a user base in US, you have user base in India, and we have nodes deployed everywhere, right? So as I mentioned, we never ran out of options when we want to use Catchpoint. It's whether it's backbone or last mile networks, it's always available. So basically, yeah, the other use case usually why we use Catchpoint is for troubleshooting. So some of the customers come and say, hey, we are not seeing, like our users from India, for example, are not seeing good performance. Their page is taking too longer to load, right? It's taking so longer to load, right? For this, we use Catchpoint, right? So we just set up tests from that specific region, and then we see what's happening. We look at the headers, we look at the response headers and different data, and see what exactly is happening, right? So this kind of stuff. And now, not only limited to this, but also whenever we have some, I mean, our engineering products team use, like whenever we are improving some products or adding some features, so they want to monitor if adding this feature will increase, will make our products better, right? So for all these use cases, we are using Catchpoint. And I would like to specifically talk about one of the use cases, like whenever our customers reaches out to us, like, hey, we are seeing this performance issue. right? So how exactly we use catch point in that instance. For example, let's say one of the customer comes in, hey, users from India, right? So they're facing issues. So now the first thing what we do, right? So what I do is just set up the set up web test, right? So there are different types of tests. For example, API test, single object test, or web test. So I can just go ahead and set up the test and from that location. And first thing is that we would want to measure cache hit versus cache miss rate. So how much of the uh, how many percentage of objects were served from cache, right? So for that, an feature we use is uh, we have something called catch point inside trace points, right? So we can just look at what response headers we want, and we can just create that response headers in insights or trace points, and we can measure, okay, let's say there were 100 requests, and how many out of 100 requests, how many were cache hits. For example, we have a header called we have headers from Akamai called X cache, right? So that X cache header gives us whether that object was served from Akamai edge or not, right? So we will see TCP hit or TCP miss, and then we can segregate it, right? So using these catch point inside trace points, then we can get an idea. Okay, so there were like 95 times the object was served from cache Akamai edge server itself, and other 5 times there was a cache miss. It means that it went to a customer origin server. And also measure for those cache hits, what's the time taken, what's the median response time, or what's the average response time it took. For TCP misses, again, we can do that. And one more thing is that we can easily measure, like we can easily get all the IP addresses which were mapped from India, mapped to all the India users, right? So we'll get a list of IP addresses and just see that, right? So for example, we have something called mapping, which it's algorithm. For example, if the user is coming from India or let's say Bangalore, right? So our mapping system makes sure he gets an optimal edge server. So probably near to that end user. So let's say Mumbai, or if the edge server which is healthier in Bangalore, he gets that itself, right? So we would want to measure that first. So what we do is we get all the list of IP addresses and see, is mapping happening properly. Okay, for these IP addresses or for these Akamai edge servers, is the region healthy, right? So we can measure all these things. So and then the next thing is that it's not only I mean it's a different phases, right? So when we talk about a CDN, it sits in front, it sits in between end user and the origin server, as you can see in this diagram, right? So now, as I said, so we were able to measure the cache hits versus cache misses, and again the mapping between the end user and the Akamai child edge server. Let's say we also have parent edge server which is connecting to the origin server. We can also measure that specific time, as you can see in the screenshot that there is the origin time. So we have some headers called server timing headers. So what's the time? What's the duration which edge server took? For example, duration 329 edge, right? So it means that Akamai edge server took 329 milliseconds to serve that response, whereas origin server, right? So that origin time between origin server and the Akamai parent edge server, it took 4817, which is 4.8 seconds to serve that response. So we can also easily find out here, okay, there was an issue with origin server that took time to serve the response, right? So different phases of the actual request and response phase, we can measure these times, and we can each like at least we can 90% of the times we'll get to know what exactly is the issue, where exactly the latency is caused, right? So overall, there is no day I haven't been amazed of, right? So whenever I'm using catch point, it's technically sound, and whatever the use cases our customer comes in, or whatever we think of for troubleshooting, it's always there, it's always helpful for us.